Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Forgive me while I'm getting everything set up here.
I was muted as per usual. I'm talking away like.
Hi.
All right. Yes, carry on.
So happy you're here with me. Welcome,
Hi.
welcome. Happy Monday. Happy President's Day in the US for those of you that are here in the US. And I believe, Raina, if you can give me a thumbs up that we are streaming on Facebook and that we've got everything going okay. Feel like I was trying a new thing to be able to have the screen up saying that thanks, Raina, that we were going to be starting so that I could get all the tech figured out ahead of time. And I don't know if it worked or not. We'll see. Those of you that are watching on Facebook, let me know. Type in the chat if you saw the fancy thing that Raina helped create. I don't know what I would do without her at this point in my life. She's absolutely phenomenal, helping with everything in the background. So love, 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 and appreciate her wisdom and talents for sure. So if everyone can type in the chat, either on Facebook or here on Zoom with us, your name and where you are from, where you're joining us from, since we have an international audience, which is amazing. I love connecting with educators from around the world, and super grateful to have you all here. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. So Amy, welcome, welcome, welcome. So as we start everything, Amy, will you share your micro moment of gratitude from the day?
Absolutely. It was funny. The way that the gymnasiums are working here in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is where I live full time, you have to get on a list. And I was waitlisted, and I was kind of bummed because it would have been an extra workout. So instead I went and got a massage because I didn't get in. And I'm very grateful for the massage, and that's just the way things work sometimes.
That's fantastic. And I didn't realize we were going to be matching today.
Yes, we're very pink today.
Did not plan that, but perfect. I mean, Valentine's Day, right?
Yes, yes.
Carrying the pink forward.
Absolutely.
So, hi, Laura. Hi, Maya. Hi, Alfredo. Diane. Aggie. Elizabeth from Peru. That's awesome. Alfredo's from Mexico City. Maya's from Mexico City. We've got our Las Vegas peeps here to join us as well. So happy to have you guys all here. And so I'm going to be watching the Zoom chat, and Raina's going to help me out and watch the Facebook chat. So Raina, will you alert me to anything going on there? Any questions along the way? So we're going to do things a little bit different today than we normally do. Normally I have a slideshow and we make it a little bit formal. Today we're going to make it a little bit more relaxed. It's a national holiday here in the US. So those of you that are not celebrating President's Day with us, enjoy our casual setup day for a 3-day weekend we're having. But Amy and I are just going to chat. We're going to chat about navigating this world of consistent uncertainty. And there's so much going on in the world that is outside of our control. And it's absolutely mind-boggling that the world that we're living in right now. And I just want to honor and acknowledge every human on the planet right now for waking up, right? For waking up and doing it again. And one foot in front of the other, you're all doing it. And it's amazing. And I just want to give you all a huge, big hug and say, we're all in this together. And there is a lot that we have to be thankful for. And so we're going to talk about not only gratitude, not only self-care. We're not going to talk about buzzwords. We're actually going to talk about taking our power back and what that looks like in terms of navigating through all of this uncertainty, which kind of is the name of the game in the world right now, and especially in the world of education. Just so many factors that go into every decision that's being made, and it's a lot. So those of you that don't know me, my name is Sandy Herrera, and my company is called Educator Dynamics, and I have been doing school culture transformation and leadership work for the last 10 years, 10 plus years. I started when I was working with Delivering Happiness, which is the former Zappos CEO, Tony Hsieh, wrote a book called Delivering Happiness. And I had the good fortune while he was in this life to be friends with him. And he turned his book into a company, and we were doing corporate culture transformation. And during that time, I got to meet a few educators that were passionate about transforming their cultures and started volunteering my time. And Amy's Schools was one of the first that I started volunteering with a couple of years before she became principal. And so I've known Amy a long time. We go way back to the beginning of Sandy learning about education and figuring out the commonalities between education and corporate America and what that looked like in terms of leadership and culture development. And so I left Delivering Happiness in 2013 with full steam ahead and full support with all of my family from Delivering Happiness that said, Sandy, you're passionate about education, go build this. And so I've been kind of building the plane on the way down ever since and learning and growing right alongside all of you. And so it's all been about values alignment. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But I wanted to share and have Amy share a little bit about her journey as an educator and kind of how she got to be the principal for, is it 6 or 8 years now?
8. Yes,
8
we're
years.
in year 8.
And you are a National Blue Ribbon School. You have won so many amazing, prestigious awards for the work that you've done, not only with your staff, but with your students, and just so many amazing things that you've been able to do with that school and the community that you've curated. So share with us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Gosh, I don't know how far to go back, but I landed in Las Vegas in 1998 because when I got my master's, my loan was more than my raise. So I had a college professor that said, you need to go to Las Vegas. I'd come from Arizona. And he said, there's so much room to move up and to grow. And I know someone, and fast forward, I ended up teaching here. And I got my second master's within a couple of years in administration. Not planning to be an administrator right away. I'd only been teaching about 8 or 9 years. And, but things just happened and I became a dean. I was a dean for a year and a half. And for those of you not from the US or from Nevada, a dean deals mostly with discipline, kind of like an assistant principal. And then I was very quickly made an AP within a year and a half. So I was an assistant principal for 10 years and loved every minute of it. I had such a great time. I still think it's the best job on the planet because you're a little closer to kids and teachers. But I did then have the opportunity to apply for West Career Technical Academy. I'd worked most of my career in at-risk schools, but I also worked in schools that had magnet programs, so school within a school. And when West Career Technical Academy came open, it's an all magnet school, but very much in my wheelhouse because that's what I had supervised for 6 years prior to that, and worked with some really high level students, even in some really difficult neighborhoods. So kind of went out on a limb and applied, and 8 years later, here I am. But I think, the journey has been challenging in a lot of different ways. The world has changed a lot since I became an administrator, and especially since I became a principal. We deal with school shootings. We've dealt now with the pandemic. We've dealt with an economy crash. And I think our theme today is so on point because you just never really know what's coming next. And you have to build some resilience to be able to just keep putting one foot in front of the other because our kids really need us to be the best no matter what's happening in the world. They really depend on us. So my journey is I'm here. And I think part of it was having the good fortune to be able to work with Sandy, kind of starting, I think it was year 2 that I got there, toward the end of year 1. But we have had such a great journey and built some really wonderful capacity with my administrative team and my teaching staff and our students. And it really did transform how we communicate and how we have kind of let our vision kind of be moving, not our vision, but more our, the way to get to the vision we've allowed to be more alive. And I think it's because we have a lot of trust built, and that comes from developing relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that, we'll chat about today is how are we all navigating with those relationships, and what does trust have to do with that, right?
Mhm.
And how do we actually build and grow trust in those micro moments? So Amy, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of jump in and let's take everyone through the little exercise that we talked about, just to get some real live coaching on the fly that you and I get to do together, and really just, I would love everyone to take out a piece of paper. I know that's kind of foreign in the world of technology, but if you happen to have an actual piece of paper, you can do this electronically too if you don't happen to have actual pen and paper. But you as educators know that there is neuroscience behind actually pen to paper, that there's some really cool connections that happen for all of us. And so I want you to divide your paper or your Word doc or Google Doc into 2 columns. And I would normally show an example of this, but it's not super complicated. So hopefully everyone can follow along with my weird explanation. So stop me if I end up making this way more complicated than it needs to be. But 2 columns, draw a line down the middle of the page. And I'm going to give everyone about 60 seconds. I'm going to pull out my timer because I am not so good at actually keeping time. So I'm going to do this and leverage the power of technology and actually have a timer up. So I'm just going to give 60 seconds per bucket of words. So I'm going to give you two words, and I'm going to want you to write what comes to mind under each word. So one word will be in one column, one word will be in the second column. And I'm going to do that 3 times. And then I will give you examples at the end of what we're going to do next. So we'll just go one step at a time. So what I want you to do is I want you to write the words certainty and uncertainty. So certainty and uncertainty. So 2 different columns. And go ahead and take 60 seconds. And I want you to write what is certain in your world and what's uncertain in your world. So as many things as you can think of, certain and uncertain. So I'm going to go ahead and hit go. So 60 seconds, everything in your world as a human, not necessarily just education. So just as a human being, certainty and uncertainty. All right, there's the little cute timer bell. Go ahead and stop wherever you are. It's totally fine. You'll have more time to go back if you have other things you wanted to add. So now for the next 60 seconds, I want you to write 2 more words, known and unknown. So what is known in your world and what is unknown in your world? And write everything you can think of. 60 seconds, go ahead. All right, wherever you're at is totally fine. Last one. Attachment, non-attachment. So your 2 header words for this segment, attachment non-attachment. So what things in your world are you attached to, and what things are you not attached to? So attachment and non-attachment. 60 seconds. All right. Now I want you to go ahead and take a look at everything you've written. So just kind of glance over and see what's standing out to you. And I want you to circle all of the things that you have control over. So circle all of the things that you have control over. And draw a line through the things that are outside of your control. So circle the things that you have control over and draw a line through the things that are outside of your control. And as you're doing that, I want you to go ahead, those of you that have finished up quickly, go ahead and type in the chat. What do you notice? Go ahead and type in the chat. What are you noticing from all of your words? And Amy, you and I will talk about it whenever you're ready to get started. So if you guys, whenever you're done, what are you noticing about your two lists? And what's coming up for you? Go ahead and type it in the chat. So Amy, as you were going through this, and we've talked about this, but as you were writing them down now, what came up for you?
You know, it's interesting. I really only circled one thing, and I wrote, I'm going to be okay. Because I wrote the things I was certain about. I'm going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Because we have 100% success of being okay. I mean, that okay might look different day to day, but the only thing I really have control over is me being okay. And it's a choice every day. It's how I deal with the stressors in life. So kind of interesting. Certainty is I'll have my family. I mean, do I have control over that? Maybe not. But I know there's things I can count on. And family and support and friends and, healthful, intentionally built relationships are something that I do control because they matter to me. So I put some emphasis and time into those.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the uncertainty is how they're going to show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or heaven forbid, if they show up, right?
Right.
That something awful happens.
Mm-hmm.
That one of the things that as I was going through this, and Laura, I agree, the lists are similar, right? Is that there is so much outside of our control, but that's kind of life.
Mm-hmm.
So pandemic or not pandemic, 5 minutes from now is uncertain and unknown. It's predictable based upon the fact that we're sitting right here. I can predict that I'm still going to be sitting right here 5 minutes from now, but I really don't know. And it's really not certain, right?
Right.
Like we can guess, but all we know, and Amy, we've talked about this for years, and it was one of the things you mentioned, capacity building with your staff, in terms of everything is a story we make up in our head. The only known is right now, right now, right now, right now. Everything else is a story we're making up in our head. Even this exercise, it's now in the past, and all of us that have been going through it together, we all have a different version of what that was like. And we would all play the game of telephone and tell someone about it in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so we all have a different reality of that. And we can all think we know what's going to happen an hour from now. And predictably, we're probably right based upon past experience or plans we have. And it's still uncertain. It's still unknown, right?
Right.
So go ahead, Amy.
I was just thinking, when I work with my team and we have something where, and we've gone through this with you as well, when we catastrophize something.
Yeah.
And so whenever one of us starts to go into catastrophize mode, what's the worst thing that could happen? The first question I always ask, I'm like, okay, can you control that? And if the answer is no, then you need to minimize the energy you put into that catastrophe that you're making up in your head. And sometimes there's things that just happen, and you have to deal with it as it occurs. But the more you worry about it, the more energy you spend, the less you have to build relationships and do good things in life. And I think it's just, for me, I really look at things a lot about energy and where I choose to put it. Because now I feel like I've come far enough that I get to choose where I put energy, and I just don't waste it on things I can't control anymore.
And I love that you point that out. And we've talked before on these webinars about energy management versus time management, and understanding that there are certain things in life that give you a lot of energy.
Right.
And all of a sudden you feel so vibrant after. And then there's other things that you do that drain your energy. Sitting in traffic, right? Sitting at a doctor's office, waiting, sitting at the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles here in the US for like hours on end going, oh, can this just stop, right? Painful, energy drains. But then you can go to Disneyland, or you can, go to a friend's house that you've been waiting to see, or you can pick up the phone and have a conversation or a Zoom chat with someone you're excited to connect with. And time flies by. You're like, oh my gosh, we've been talking for 3 hours. How did this happen? So it's about energy management and really paying attention to what are you putting your energy into. That's such a great point. And so, I mean, when you think about that energy management, you think about that evolution from when you really started the journey as a conscious edupreneur, because that's really who you are right now. Like, you are living in a world where you've designed your life to live a very conscious life as an educator with a very entrepreneurial mindset. Like you've done that with intention for the last 8 years that I've known you, for certain. And obviously you had learnings that led us to be connected and do this work together. But tell us a little bit about that journey and the consistent uncertainty that you faced over time, and how you've evolved with the different tools and strategies that have served you along the way, as you kind of evolved to be where you are now.
Right. So I think it has been a journey. And I think, like all of us, I think I use my tools better on some days than others. But I think one of the things I've really come to realize is, when you have things you're not good at, you build a team around you that kind of makes up for your own deficits. And so, when I look for someone, I'm looking for someone that maybe can do things I can't, and or they're better at certain things than I am. I'm terrible with time. I think things are going to go super quick and they take forever. And I'm very much an idea person, and I'm very much on the human side. And, we could get into my profile of why I'm that way. But I really need to balance my team with people that help me be more productive. And I think part of the journey is just accepting that, I don't need to be good at everything, because I have people for that. That sounds really awful. I have people for that.
Well, but
it's intentional.
Part of it too, Amy, is I think we need to put the bat down about needing other people. Right. When we talk about one of the components of trust, right? I talk about Brene Brown's work all the time and her anatomy of trust. And, it's that, oh my gosh, I totally lost my train of thought on the non-judgment piece. Right. And when we judge ourselves for needing help along this messy middle of our life, right? We're breaking out the proverbial bat and going, but I should be able to do it all myself. I should be. Well, the should bat is shame, right? And it's created, unfortunately, from a system of education that was built for a different era, right? That doesn't necessarily serve us. And, we talk about this all the time. If you have 5 classes and, you've got a student that has 4 A's and a D, what do we harp on? I mean, this, right? The D, the not good enough because you're not perfect across the board. Well, we're not wired that way. And
Right.
so we all have this unconscious habit back here and thought that's like, oh, it sounds bad when I say I have people. No, we get to have people, right? That's what helps us be successful and actually have life be fun.
Right.
And so
Well,
I
and we
bring that up.
stymie our
It's so normal.
right, and we stymie our growth when I think because of fear and you don't want people to know what you don't know,
Mhm.
we can actually put a huge roadblock in front of our own growth because we're so afraid someone will find out that we don't know everything. And we're so afraid that someone will find out that you aren't the perfect expert in your area. When what we should be doing is embracing, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And I'm so happy to learn from you, my colleague, who I trust to be in charge of that now, because that is your wheelhouse, that's your strength. And I get to learn from you and hopefully be better at it. And aren't we better as a team by leveraging each of our individual strengths and skills? And I think it kind of took me a long time to get here. And it might be, a little bit of when you're a female leader and you're often at a table where you might be the only female leader, that's also a little more, as I've aged, I have a lot more confidence. And I've always known, that I could be a good leader and that I could, I think my biggest job is just to ensure that the people that work with me and next to me are given an opportunity to leverage their skills because, I think the best part of my job, the biggest part of my job is to make sure everyone becomes a better them. And not because of me, hopefully I help, but my job is to provide opportunities and to help them see things they didn't see and learn things they didn't learn and find the things they didn't know that they were great at, because we do have to keep learning. And I think it's human nature. We're never going to be satisfied static. We have to keep moving. We're kind of like sharks, right? We have to move or
Right.
we can't breathe.
That's what growth is learning, right? So you bring up a great point. I would love everyone to type in the chat. What are 1, 2, or 3, your choice if you want to write 1 or 2 or 3, qualities or characteristics that you have admired in your favorite leader that you've ever been connected to? And it could be a former teacher, it could be a boss, it could be a parent, it could be an aunt or uncle or friend or whoever, but someone that you really see as a leader in life, and write 1, 2, or 3 characteristics of what you admire about them. And because when we think about that, when we think about what we admire in others, and then we kind of know when we're working with someone who's really not in alignment with those values, right? With those characteristics, because usually, and I'm going to butcher your name, Janine, I believe, flexible, right? And that flexibility is really paramount when you think about living in alignment with your values as an educator. If you value flexibility, if you value that grace, right? That grace that mistakes are okay, and you're working alongside someone that does not, and they actually value more rigid by the book, you're probably not going to be good teammates, right? You're probably not going to be able to tackle uncertainty together in a really healthy way for either one of you. And optimistic and diligent, these are fantastic words, right? That there optimism, like there are a lot of, I can go down a rabbit hole thinking about the news media. This is not a political conversation at all, but when we think about what is in the mainstream headlines, the majority of them are not optimistic. If we were to just kind of take a scale, and I'm sure there's people that do studies and there's actual percentages, right? The majority are not optimistic, but there's a lot of headlines below the headlines that are really optimistic. So that's the other piece to this, is where are you putting your energy and who are you connecting to, right? So who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they in alignment with your values of what you value in a leader and the core value? what are you feeding your brain with? What different energetic things are you listening to? Are you learning from? Are you reading? Like what are those areas? So Amy, when you think about your staff and you think about those your team members, the ones that are really struggling in the face of uncertainty, what habits are you seeing them do that aren't really serving them?
I think part of it is when I see them kind of get in the spin cycle, and we talked about catastrophizing, and they don't seem to be able to just kind of step out of the spin and go, whoa, I got to step back and look back a minute. So I think part of it is not pausing to actually get perspective, because it's really important to reset your perspective when things start to get scary and heavy, and when things start to get, wow, I'm losing control. And as a recovering control freak, I feel like that sometimes. It really is important to step back and go, okay, in 4 hours, is this going to be as big a deal as I feel like it is right now? In 4 days, is it going to be as big a deal as I feel like it is right now? And who is it a big deal to? Why is it a big deal to that person or people? And if you can kind of reset, because a lot of it boils down to what people are going to think of you. and honestly, once you get to the point that, again, you don't really have control of what people think about you, and you get back to what's really happening here, is my mind taking over and making up stories? Am I catastrophizing? And I think one of the things that's helped me sometimes when someone starts to get in that spin cycle is I'll just say, okay, so first I need to know if you want sympathy or solutions. And it kind of helps them reset. Oh my gosh, okay, what do I need from Amy right now? Oh, I just need to feel better. Okay, I want sympathy, but I might need a solution down the road. And then the second thing is, I ask them, okay, well, how much control over do you have this? How much control do you have over this? How can I help you solve the pieces that are going to make you feel better about what's happening right now? And I think lastly, I ask them, what am I missing? Because sometimes I'm looking at them going, doesn't seem like an emergency to me, but I can't, but you're just listening. And I'll say, okay, what am I missing? Because I feel like I'm missing a big piece of the puzzle. Oh, well, I had a flat tire and my husband said, if that ever happened again, he's going to sell this car and I love my car. The stories goes on. But I think it helps people reset. This is a problem for 4 minutes, 4 hours, 4 sentences, and just resetting. And so I think I really try to help people gain perspective over issues, and that seems to help a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure I'm off topic, but
No,
just kind of.
it's actually brilliant to really look at kind of compartmentalizing it in that way, to go, who is it a big deal to, right?
Mhm.
And why is it a big deal? And not diminishing that it is a big deal.
Right.
And really being able to honor those around you from that perspective, that in that moment, it's a really big deal. When you're having a conversation with a friend, and let's just go down the Valentine's Day route,
Yeah.
just because it's fun.
Mhm.
Let's take this to to a universal relationship perspective, right? Significant other relationships, no matter what label you have on them. If you've got a friend that calls you up and says he or she blah 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 blah, and it's like all of a sudden it's
Oh, sorry.
catastrophized, right? And you're sitting there on the other end going, they just canceled dinner plans with you, and they said that, they could actually meet, the next night. And so is there, like, again, back to what am I missing? Because this is obviously a big deal to you. And I'm sitting here going, wait, am I like, because otherwise it's not a big deal. Like what's the bigger picture? Because if we don't lead with empathy, if we don't lead with that compassion, if we don't lead from that generosity of assumption, right? It's another component of trust in Brene Brown's Anatomy of a Trust, is generosity, right? That we lead with that generous assumption. There's obviously something going on here, that this person needs to be heard. And I'm going to generously assume that they're doing the best that they can right now. Right. And we talk a lot about that. It in everything that I do from a human behavior perspective, is that if you have the lens on the world that everyone is doing the best that they can in this moment with whatever experience and wisdom that they have in this moment, the world gets a lot more optimistic, because the alternative is that they're evil, right? Or a jerk, and not to say that they're not being a jerk, but in that moment, they're doing the best that they can based upon what's going on inside of them and in their past and everything else that they're showing up with. Because personally, I don't want someone else thinking that I'm not doing the best that I can, even if I'm having a full-blown, fetal position meltdown. Because in that moment, that's what it feels like to me. And so if I need to be there to have someone like you're describing, you're able to do with your team, Amy, to hold space and go, okay, do you need sympathy or do you need a solution? And am I missing anything? That's creating a safe container for someone to be exactly where they're at and give them permission for that. The world's such a more optimistic place if we as humans just lead with that level of kindness, right? That is a form of giving someone some self-care space.
Absolutely. And I do feel like too, even if that person says, well, it becomes something that's a relationship or someone's violated, one of your really imperatives and as said, this person drove me crazy and I don't know what to do with them. My advice is always, okay, is this conversation that you could potentially have with this person going to make things better or worse? And if it's going to make it better, why? And if it's going to make it worse, why? Is it timing? Is it this conversation might be great, but I need to give them a day? Is it this is never a conversation that's going to go well? And then you just kind of have to sit back and go, okay, well, this person just violated, some of my most tightly held values. And then you have to make a decision about, what you're going to do with this person or this situation. And sometimes you need assistance and sometimes it's something you can do on your own. So I think the key for me is always, communication is the most important thing to keep those stories you make up in your head straight, get them straightened out, because it is how people feel. It isn't always how it is, but how you feel is very real. and I think that phrase, and I'm going to paraphrase it really badly, but about how you always remember how someone makes you feel is really true. We as humans, we're social animals. We seek one another. We seek approval, and a lot of that we kind of have to retrain ourselves to seek appropriate approval and to seek it in a way that's healthy, because sometimes we seek approval from the wrong sources. And I'm way off education now, but I think it plays into so many different things that make leadership so fun and so crazy and so never boring.
Right. So when you think about the things that you've done, and you've done so much brilliant work in not only creating a really vibrant social emotional workplace, to where you actually have been very intentional about how you as a staff communicate with one another and how you connect, and that those adult human relationships are vital to the success of your school overall. And you've also carried that forward in some really cool ways with your students in giving them some of the, I don't even like this term, soft skills, right? Because they're some of the hardest to navigate talking about. But you've done a really beautiful job. Will you share just a couple examples of things that you've been able to do with your student population by leveraging the brilliance of the social emotional relationships that are really healthy amongst your staff, and how you've been able to carry that forward to give your kiddos some lifelong lessons in communication and well-being?
Sure. So I think one of the things that we did last year, and it's so funny because this all happened before the pandemic, but last year we were really realizing that a lot of our students, my school is an all magnet school. A lot of our students are very, very high functioning. But with that comes some of the things that come with high functioning students, right? They're very anxious. They're very much pleasers. They will get an A if it kills them. And I do mean that in the most literal sense. They will work themselves into illness. So we decided as a staff, and I don't think we could have done this had we not had, the educator dynamics and talent dynamics work we did as a school for several years with you, because it took trust and it took us knowing it was going to be some hard work on the adult side, but it was going to be worth it. We, as a team, decided we have to come up with something to help these kids find more balance in life and to not put all of their worth into what their grades are. We knew that was always going to be important, but we wanted them to have some idea of what it could look like and should look like if you have some balance. So we put a committee together and we created, we call it a PBL, and it's a project or problem-based learning experience. And we called it the Year of Wellbeing. And every 3 weeks, we had a day where we rotated through some activity that kids could do that made them more resilient, that gave them tools. So it was things like yoga. It was things like goal setting. It was things like, how do I set up my binder? Planning. We had some experts come in mental health. We did a session on naps and why napping is good for you. We did some sessions on sleep, on diet. And they got to rotate through different activities every 3 weeks for most of the year until we went into the pandemic. And, it was interesting. Some of the kids, they kind of played it cool. And they're like, oh, we'd rather be in our class. I'm getting behind. And I'm like, that's exactly why you need this. And then other kids were just like, oh my gosh, I need this so much. I really appreciate it. So, and it really took the whole staff, and it was a ton of planning. And I think, not that it was a drawback, probably something I would try and figure out differently is it was more work for the adults. And I think the adults by the end of it probably needed a well-being as well. But yeah, I mean, we hiked and the kids went on bike rides and they went out and picked up trash, we have a beautiful recreation area. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Las Vegas. It's kind of a big bowl and we're on the northwest part of the bowl. And there's these beautiful mountains and trails, and there's a lot to do that's really, really fun and gorgeous, and you can be outside, especially because of the weather. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the things that I'm pretty proud of, even though it was hard work, and I'm not sure we would have made it through the whole year, but the goal was to give kids some perspective and also some tools, some ideas of how can I be me, but be a less stressed me. What can I build into my tool belt? What things can I build into my day that will make me a more balanced student, and I'll be working smarter and maybe not quite so hard. So that was something we did as a staff, and we couldn't have done that had we not done the trust building. And even though I think there are some teachers going, Amy, I'm going to kill you because now I have to finish my PBL plans on top of teaching calculus, whatever it was. But it really was something that our community embraced, and it was pretty neat. We did some prizes, and I think, just to kind of shift gears too, we try to do recognition for the teachers. And when the pandemic started, I had the teachers, they got to pick a hero each week, and our staff meeting was Zoom. So it was really impersonal, and we're a very personal staff. We're small, we're less than 100 people, 60 teachers, and it's a tight group. A lot of these people have been there since day one, even prior to me being there. And so we had to kind of figure out how to keep the intimacy going, because that intimacy of how we know one another is how we can weave a safe space for kids. But they got to recognize a hero. And then fortunately, I had some money in the budget, and I was able to do some gift cards. So the people who got chosen as a hero got a gift card. And then we did, for students, a top distance learner. So the teachers each got to pick 2 students from each period that they felt like really were doing a great job in distance learning. That doesn't mean they had A's. It just meant, hey, this kid showed up. Their hair might have been sticking up, their dog might have been barking, but this kid was there every single day. So we were able to do some recognition that was based on trust and, you know, valuing our time together. And I think that helped quite a bit. And it's just funny, in the midst of all this, we win the blue ribbon and we
Yeah.
don't get to go to Washington, D.C., which I was like, oh, I love D.C., but that's part of it. Um, so I think it's really just trying to suss out, you know, what's important to the teachers and the kids. And, you know, when I ask the teachers, what would you like to do? 99% of the time, it absolutely circles around something they can do more for kids, you know, so, which I admire. And I'm like, well, what can I do for you? And, you know, we just, as adults, we don't think that way sometimes. We're like, okay, we're the grown-ups. We got to do this. We've got to do everything right for kids. And I think that, again, I go back to, we built a lot of trust and we built a common vision. We want a collaborative community, and we want a community where we can build the resilience of students so that they can leave us with more confidence. They can leave us knowing that even though they don't know everything, they know how to find what they need. And I don't know, I think collaboration, confidence, just try and build one another up. And our support staff was involved in all this too. You know, we had a lot of people involved in different ways. So I talked a long time.
No, I think it's great. I think it's great to really share ideas and inspiration for what's possible, right? When you
Yes.
have the ability to create some autonomy, and you've been able to do this with the trust building that you've done around you, and your entrepreneurial mindset as well. You've been able to push some boundaries and beg forgiveness with some things, and because of your entrepreneurial spirit. And that's one of the things with the programs that I've been developing over this past year, is taking a lot of the leadership and culture coaching work that I've done and going, this is really about teaching educators how to be entrepreneurial minded, even if you're in the current system, in how you can use some entrepreneurial skill sets, because you all kind of have them already. We just need to, you know, show you that that's what that is. And then you own it. You get to own the title of edupreneur once I show you how amazing you're already doing it. And a lot of those things actually translate into the other work that I'm doing with Genius School Global, and being able to bring the Genius Camp platform to West Tech and to several other schools around the world, in the work that we've been able to do to ignite the inner genius in young people and teach them holistically, right? That it's not just about calculus, it's not just about English, it's not just about, you know, history or any, you know, standard subjects. It's like, no, let's actually teach to the whole human. And I think with your year of well-being, that was really a testament to us looking at, okay, what is possible in education and how do we actually make it child-centered, personalized learning pathways. And as a magnet school, you have a lot of autonomy to start doing that already. And I know some of the more traditional schools don't have that yet, which is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about what Genius School Global is building, in really looking at the next wave of industry is entrepreneurism. And we need to be preparing our kids to create a job versus get a job. And in order to do that, we've got to be teaching our educators how to amplify their entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial game. And so anyone that's interested in learning more about that, we've got a Global Genius Educator certification training happening at the end of March. It's virtual. It's just a 2-week training. I believe there's about 12 hours over those 2 weeks worth of curriculum that we'll go through together. And I do have 3 spots left at my redonkulously reduced rate. It's normally a $4,500 training, but I have 3 spots left at a really, really, really drastically reduced rate. So if anyone's interested, please hang out for the next 10 minutes and raise your hand. And I'll bring you on video and I'll answer any questions. I don't want to go into too much more detail with everyone on, but I would like you all, kind of as we wrap up, just to share in the chat, what are you learning? What's your nugget of a takeaway? Amy said so many amazing nuggets of wisdom that, that we can actually turn into little mini lessons and talk about those for the next year. But go ahead and type in the chat, what are your takeaways? What are the things that you're hearing us say in terms of navigating this world of uncertainty? Because there's a lot that we're attached to, and there's a lot that we can be detached from the outcome about, right? And kind of allow it to unfold and maybe be excited about the outcome being even better than you dreamed of as you partner with like-minded and like-hearted people and people that are in alignment with your values. And when I think about the staff that Amy's been able to bring together, it's really been about making sure that everyone is in alignment with the values of the entire West Tech community, and really hiring based on that and living those values on a daily basis versus them just being words on a wall. So those of you that are out there kind of going, I would love to work or create a school community like that. Happy to help and have those conversations anytime you guys want. Feel free to send me a direct message or an email. And I love it. Thanks, Amy, about uncertainty being everything, but in the current moment, and living with that being okay is part of the journey, and focusing on what you can control. And I'm seeing some of the takeaways here. So, Amy, I want to thank you so much for being here with me. And if you want to hang on while we do a little chat about Genius School Global and chime in with your 2 cents on the education revolution, you are definitely welcome to join us. But anyone else that wants to stay behind, go ahead and raise your hand. Raina's going to go ahead and drop the Zoom link into the Facebook chat. So if you want to come on Zoom so that I can see your beautiful face and have a conversation direct with you, that would be awesome. And I'll go ahead and bring you guys on videos so that we can actually have a face-to-face conversation about what's next and how do you actually plan for a future where you are taking back control and you are focusing on what it is that brings you joy and being able to really live with that future vision based upon what you desire in life. And I'm happy to walk you guys through what that looks like in kind of joining the education movement that we're taking part in globally. So, Amy, any final words before?
Oh, just thank you so much for the opportunity. I think I get in my really geeky love talking to other educators, and just being able to interact with you is always such a joy because I learn something from you every time. And I think my last little nugget of wisdom would be, a colleague of mine, and I got to give her credit. Her name is Donna Levy, and she's the principal of another career tech academy. We were talking about equity and how in our efforts to make things equitable during this time, we have actually probably held some kids back. And so there was a phrase she said, to me, equity is not being tied to the dock, it's everyone rising at the same time. So we shouldn't be tied to a dock. We should all be rising at the same time. That's equity. And you might start a little further up the river, but we still need to all be rising. And, all of you are educators. I can see some from British Columbia and Mexico. Keep rising, just keep inspiring, keep trying to keep the kids engaged and, help make them resilient. That's part of our gig. And it's been a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amy, for being here. I absolutely adore you, and I'm super grateful to have been working with you for so many years. And
Back at you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. And those of you that are staying behind, I'll definitely bring you on video. But thank you so much, Amy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So those of you that are hanging out and staying behind, I know Raina was going to drop the link in. So if anyone wants to actually come on Zoom and who was watching on Facebook, you are welcome to do so. And if you are still in the Zoom room and you want more information about Genius School Global, go ahead and do a quick little raise your hand in the bottom of Zoom. You've got a hand raise button down there, and I will go ahead and bring you on video and answer your specific questions about what is happening globally. So definitely look forward to connecting with you all and answering these questions, because it's going to take a lot of us to really look at revolutionizing education from the perspective of how do we amplify our inner genius as educators in order to really amplify the genius of the students around us and the students that we serve, because we're here to make a global difference. Even if you are just teaching locally, the nature of technology happening right now is that we're raising global citizens, and their impact in the world is going to be global. And we are all way more connected than we've ever been. And it can be a really beautiful thing as we curate these communities to connect and, like Amy was saying, to rise together. And it's going to take all of us to do so. So if you are interested in joining the Genius School movement, definitely let me know. And I'm happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you if you prefer to not do it on video here today. Raina has dropped in a link that you can book a call with me. And I'm happy to have those conversations with you one-on-one, or drop your email in the chat box, or just say me and we'll send you a direct message. There's lots of ways that we can connect. Just let me know how I can support you in really moving forward to be part of the solutions for revolutionizing education, so that it serves not only all of our students, but it serves us as educators as well. So since I'm seeing a few of you staying behind, I'm going to go ahead and just promote you to panelist. And if you want to be on video, go ahead and just turn your video on. Raina, if you want to help me do this, that would be awesome. It'll go a little bit faster. And see if any of you that want to turn your video on, or just unmute and I can hear you as well. If you don't want to be on video, that's okay. I've got so many different things open. All right. All right, so those of you on Facebook, if you wanted to join Zoom, like I said, I'll be on for another 5 minutes. And if you have any questions and you just want to reach out to me directly, Raina will drop in a link where you can book a call direct with me. But I'll go ahead and stop the live stream on Facebook. And the rest of you that are on Zoom, I'm going to hang out for a few minutes and we'll have a conversation off of social media. So enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thank you all so much for joining in. Hopefully you've taken away some nuggets. Definitely drop a chat down there and let me know your takeaways and what you found of value during this time that we've been able to connect. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. All right, so those of you that are staying behind, we are now off of Facebook, and I am promoting you guys to panelists, which means that I am able to see some of you. If you want to go ahead and either unmute or turn on your video, I can hear your questions and hopefully answer them while we're here together. All right, I think I've got everyone. All right, so I believe I've got everyone moved over now, so. Love it. Thanks, Carmen. Thanks, Veronica. Thanks for being here. So this time is for you guys. So feel free to chime in and either type questions in the chat or unmute or come on video. And I am here to answer any questions. And if you don't have any questions, I will see you in a couple weeks when we do the next webinar, which will be the whatever the first Monday is in March. I'm not sure what that date is. I'm not looking at a calendar. So if you don't have any questions, I will see y'all in a few weeks. Thanks, Victor. But if you have questions, definitely unmute or type in the chat or come on video. Bye, Veronica. Thank you for being here. All right, so if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. But if you are interested in learning more about the Genius Educator certification, normally $4,500, but I have 3 spots left for only $1,700 for that global certification. And with that certification, you get the ability to learn how to use the team dynamics assessment with young people, be able to earn some revenue with that or use it in your current workplace. We will also be training you on how to run Genius Camps, virtual and in person. We will also be training you on how to be a facilitator for the Young Entrepreneur Academy. And then there's opportunities beyond this certification for you to get even more involved in Genius School. If you ever dreamt of owning your own micro school, there's definitely opportunities for you to join that group and that team as well. So happy to have you all joining. Love that you were here. Hopefully you've taken away some beautiful nuggets. Definitely book a call with me if you have any questions, and I am happy to talk more about Genius School Global and all of the amazing things that come with that certification. And that price of $1,700 is only good until the end of this month. The training does start on March 15th, and it goes for 2 weeks. And like I said, it's about 12 hours worth of curriculum that we'll go through over those 2 weeks, and it is all virtual. So again, if you have any questions, let me know soon so that I can book you in and you can take advantage of one of those 3 spots at the ridiculously reduced price for this certification just for my webinar participants. So I am wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much for being here.